What's up, guys? It's Coach Jordan back with another Coffee with Coach. Today's question we're going to explore is, do you know your minimums? Now, some of you may not even know what minimums are. And that's a good place to start. So minimums are the numbers or the workout times that you're able to hit consistently. You may hit weights or times that are better than those numbers, but these are the numbers that you hit every single time you test. So a good example we're going to use today throughout the entire video is going to be your snatch. So maybe you hit 135 pounds every single time you snatch. Sometimes you get up to 140. Your best ever is 155. But the thing you can count on and guarantee is that every single time you snatch up to 135, you snatch it well, and it happens every single time you lift. That would be your minimum on the snatch. It's pretty much what you can count on no matter what else is going on in your training cycle, that you can hit that 135 pound snatch. Again, we could apply this to anything, your Fran time, 5K row, 1 mile run, but we're gonna use snatch for consistency today. So why do we care about that number? Well, your minimum increasing is a huge marker for progress. And it's important to have, especially the longer you train, many things or many markers for progress. You know, we could think about our 1 rep maximums as a good way to measure progress. Of course they are. But they get fewer and farther in between the longer that you train. So if you have nothing else to look at, you can wind up in some pretty big training slumps thinking that you're making no progress. So you need to have more things to watch, because that is part of training, the time in between, the work, right? So I think personally, actually, that minimums are a better measure to watch than maximums because they're consistent. Anytime you're looking at performance, I'm far more concerned about what you're going to do on a regular day than I am what you're going to do on a perfect day, because perfect days don't happen that often. If you're honest with yourself, you know that to be true. So minimums show consistency, whereas maximums do not always, right? Also, we can all relate to having first learned the snatch and having some pretty wildly different numbers. There's a time when you get really good at it for a long period of time, your numbers go up pretty consistently, and then sometimes you'll hit like a pretty big number and then you won't hit it again for like a year, right? So maximums are not a really great measure of how to watch progress on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis. That's more of a months or year basis in my experience. So minimums are consistent. Also, if we are antsy about hitting that new PR, increases in minimums usually do precede new PRs. So, and they should happen a little bit more consistently than your 1 rep max is going up, because if you're training consistently and practicing with due diligence, you're gonna get better, right? And your average going up is a good sign that your perfect day going up is also going to improve. So do you know your minimums? How would you even know? Because a lot of times minimums are the number that people don't even think about anymore, right? So I may not necessarily be paying close enough attention to know what my minimums are. Maybe I think I know my minimums, but when I actually put it on paper, my minimum just happens to be a thing I'm hitting with maybe somewhat high frequency, but not every single time. So my recommendation to all of you, myself included, is to keep a training journal and record your warm-ups. How do you build up to a heavy snatch? How do you warm up for triples? How do you warm up for doubles? Start finding trends that you like to follow and pay attention to the quality of those trends. Inside of that, you will find your minimums, okay? This can also be applied to metcons like Fran or a 5K run or row. How did you warm up for that event? What was your pacing strategy last time you did it? If you just wing it every time, sometimes you may have things going on that you don't even realize that made you do really well one day that you did not replicate and apply to the next day, so you did not do as well, right? So all these things are valuable. It also is a place that we can keep our external conditions written down, because just like I could ask you what you ate for breakfast this morning and most of you wouldn't know, if I asked you how you slept the day before you PR'd your snatch, You might assume well, you might be wrong. If I ask you how your food was, you have no clue what things were like 3 months ago, what your stress level was like, or maybe like your training attitude, or what time you were in the gym when you did that, right? Relative to what you normally are. So it gives us a good place to track all of the external factors that go on in our lives that sometimes we like to forget about. Usually you don't like to sit and dwell on how bad a week was 7 months ago. And if you do, you probably need to maybe explore that a little bit, right? So personal example for me using the snatch, for a long time, years and years and years ago, my minimum was, or my maximum on my snatch was 270 pounds at the time. And what I found to be true was that was a very, very good day. I had a lot of friends in the room. I was super hyped up, and I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't a great lift. I barely made it. I was all over the place with it, but I hit a 270 pound snatch. That was a kind of an outlier day. So what I paid attention to instead was the fact that I was hitting a 245 pound snatch very consistently, to the point where sometimes I would hit it for a double, maybe even attempt it as a triple, or I would even hit it in some complexes that were a little harder than just taking a single. And I might miss 250 or 255, but I for sure hit 245. And what I focused on was, what lifts am I taking after 245? How can I bump that number up and get some more consistency with gradually heavier weights? And there were some days where I would hit 250, 255, and that started to get more and more consistent. It doesn't mean that there weren't days where I hit 260 or 265. And while those may not have been PR days, relative to my minimum, they were very good. And over time, my minimum went up to 255 pounds. Around that time of hitting that 255 pound minimum, about a year later, on a consistent basis, I PR'd my snatch at 280, and it actually looked better than my snatch at 270 because my consistency with my lifts was better, the quality of my lifts were better, and that 280 opened up the door not too long after that for another PR snatch at 285, which more accurately measured up to where my leg strength was at the time. So then what I look at after that? Well, it took about another year to a year and a half, but my minimum went up to 260, then it went up to 265, and then I PR'd my snatch again at 295 pounds. But it took time and consistency. But the thing that changes a lot faster and is easier to monitor on a regular basis is that minimum number. It's a lot more entertaining to watch rather than just blindly trying to go for that new 1 rep max all the time. Chances are, if that's your only goal every time you lift, you're going to miss more lifts than you should, which typically puts you in compromising positions, which can cause you to get hurt. We shouldn't always be chasing PRs. We should be chasing better, consistent quality of effort, okay? That's what turns into long-term progress. And in the long run, long-term progress is what we're all looking for. So hopefully this conversation about what minimums are is helpful for you and gives you something new and valuable to measure. Hopefully in your training journal, I'm hoping I've got some of you guys convinced to start tracking your workouts on paper and paying more attention to what your warm-ups are like, your pacing strategies, and all of your external conditions, whatever else is going on in your life that might be affecting your training on a particular day. It's just super useful data and can be so helpful in helping you continue to grow, set better goals, and just know more about yourself and how your body reacts to training. So yeah, I hope that you can see that as an added benefit. Definitely not something that's required to get any benefit out of your workouts. It's just something that can add another layer of help and benefit for you. So know your minimums. That's my challenge to you guys. See you guys in the gym.